Do you want to tell?
Good evening, everyone. We have one more survivor we're waiting for, so if we could be a little patient, we have about another 5 minutes, and then we'll get started. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kent County Levy Court, and welcome to Kent County EMS's first annual Survivors Reunion. I'd like to acknowledge a few of our distinguished guests tonight before we get started. So with us this evening, Dr. Rob Rosenbaum is the State EMS Medical Director. We have with us the Kent County Medical Director, Dr. Brian Choi. Also with us tonight is our retired Medical Director, Dr. Daubert. From Kent County, we have Commissioner Alan Angel, who's also the Vice President of Levy Court, Commissioner Joanne Maston, Commissioner Bob Scott, who is the Public Safety Chairperson. Somewhere hiding out in the back there is Commissioner Hertz, and we have County Commissioner Ken Decker with us tonight. Also partnered with us tonight is Zoll Medical. Those are the monitors that we carry, and the Zoll was gracious enough to support this evening, and the two representatives is Kelly McDonough and Chad Levin from Zoll. Thank you for coming. So on behalf of Chief Colin Faulkner and the EMS administration, we want to welcome you to this extraordinary gathering. It is with great joy and gratitude that we come together tonight to celebrate life, resilience, and the incredible power of CPR. Each one of us present here this evening carries a story of survival, a testament to the remarkable efforts of emergency responders and the indomitable spirit within us all. As we reflect on the significance of this reunion, we recognize that life can change in an instant. A sudden cardiac arrest can strike without warning, leaving loved ones and communities devastated. Yet, it is in these moments of crisis that heroes emerge, individuals who step forward to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, often strangers who become saviors. Tonight, we gather to honor these heroes and celebrate the miracles that have unfolded. I think it is significant that I mentioned we are currently celebrating National EMS Week, a time to recognize the outstanding efforts of EMS professionals around the country. So during this time, let's reflect on how we have been touched by the life-giving power of CPR, a power that transcends boundaries, unites us in a purpose, and reminds us of our shared humanity. I'd like to take a moment and speak directly to the survivors. Each one of you shares a unique bond, an unbreakable thread that ties you together. And because of you, we have all experienced firsthand the transformative impact of CPR. The extraordinary intervention that has given you a second chance at life. Your presence tonight serves as a beacon of hope for others who may find themselves facing similar challenges. Your stories remind us that there is strength within us that we often underestimate, and that together we can overcome the most difficult circumstances. So thanks to you, we've also learned to cherish every heartbeat, every breath, and every opportunity that life presents us. Our stories, though diverse, are bound by the common thread of survival. Tonight, we share these stories as a source of inspiration for each other. Let us remember the power of community compassion and resilience. This reunion is not just a celebration of your survival, but also a testimony to the support that has been received from your family, your friends, and the loved ones throughout your journeys. So tonight, let us all embrace the opportunity to connect, to share, and to inspire one another. May this celebration serve as a reminder of the preciousness of life, the strength of the human spirit, and the importance of raising awareness about the critical role of CPR in saving lives. Thank you all for being here tonight, for being living proof that miracles do happen. Let us cherish this moment and forge lasting connections that will continue to uplift us on our shared path of recovery, resilience, and renewal. So enjoy this evening, and may it be a celebration of life, love, and the power of the human heart. Thank you. It is with my privilege. It is my privilege to introduce to you Reverend Walton. He is the chaplain of the Harrington and Clayton Fire Departments, who has been more gracious to share a couple of words with us tonight. Reverend?
Thank you, sir. Before I begin the prayer, look at the person to the right or to the left, in front or behind you. They could be a potential lifesaver. So remember that. If you can't do anything, remember to dial 911 and then follow instructions. But learn CPR. Okay, now I'm going to get into the prayer. Let us be in an attitude of prayer. Creator and Redeemer, we come here this night to celebrate your gift of life and your gift of second chances. Lord, you have given the ability, the wisdom, and the compassion for many to be what was called life savers, but you are the life giver. And for that we give thanks. We ask that you sustain us with the abilities to do the best that we can whenever called upon. We also ask that you provide for us an opportunity not only to practice what we have been taught, but to meet those, the families, and those who the reason we were called to the scene again here in this world. Guide us now as we celebrate this night with those who have had a second chance in life. A second chance to celebrate a birthday, a second chance to celebrate an anniversary, a second chance for many things. So, Lord, be with those who are now celebrating their second chances and continue to bless them, as well as those who have provided the care, both pre-hospital and hospital care. We pray this all in the name of our holy and loving God. And all of God's children can say, amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Now it is my honor and privilege to introduce one more person before we get the ceremony started. I'd like to introduce Dr. Kelly Abresher, our Associate Medical Director, who would like to say a few words.
Thanks, John. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. I have been an emergency physician for 26 years out of residency, and next to creating a life, the most fine thing a person can do is to save one. And Abraham Lincoln said that many years ago. I will tell you that I fell in love with emergency medicine as a medical student, probably when we had our first cardiac arrest come in and we actually got the patient back. And to watch that miracle hooked me for life. I've watched through the years as a physician and being involved in EMS, how all the protocols have changed, our treatment has changed. Sometimes we go back to the same thing we did before when other things don't work. But it's amazing, and people work very hard on these protocols. We stay on top of the literature, and we want to do the best things for our community. You know, the police, the EMTs, the paramedics, everybody trains over and over and over in all these procedures and techniques to save lives. And I will tell you that another quote I absolutely love for EMS, and it's very famous, is that I didn't become involved in EMS to get a front row seat to other people's tragedies. I did it because I knew the world was bleeding, and so was I. And somewhere inside, I knew the only way to stop my own bleeding was to learn how to stop someone else's. And not just for bleeding, but for tragedy. And I will tell you, we get the call every time there's a cardiac arrest. We get a call in the ER. And so many times we hear that the patient actually has a pulse back. And I'm the person who cares for them when they come in the ER. And then I go in that little room to tell the family who are waiting on the edge of their seat to hear what happened. And it just makes such a difference to go into that room and just have everybody breathe and say, they're still here. We're working on them, they're on life support, but they're alive. And seeing the beauty and the faces here tonight and watching that is the biggest gift I've ever been given, not only as a physician, but as a human being. And I just want to end by saying to all of my EMS brethren, do your best, because one day you could be someone's hero. Thank you.
Approximately 350,000 people suffer from cardiac arrest annually. Excuse me. 90% of them are fatal. In 2022, KCMS has responded to 263 arrests with presumed cardiac etiology. Of those dispatches, 13 people were identified with a discharge cerebral performance category CPC 1. A CPC score is used to evaluate the neurological outcome following a cardiac arrest. Tonight, we honor those survivors and their rescuers. Our first group of honorees tonight is a combination group. These individuals responded to 5 different incidents that resulted in a positive outcome. Their survivors are not here with us tonight, but we still recognize the efforts in the chain of the survival. Will the following responders please make your way to the right of the room and come up when you are called? All of those, okay. From the 911 center, Dispatcher 2, Veronica Dickerson. Dispatcher 2, Dylan Miller. Dispatcher 3, Cameron Mass. Dispatcher 3, J.R. Short. From Kent County EMS, Sergeant Kenny Kelly. FTO, Jennifer Sweetman. Paramedic, Lisa Schlauch. I would also like to recognize Paramedic Ashley DeCento, however, she is not here this evening. FTO, Rachel Doan. Paramedic, Kevin Cottle. Sergeant Greg Schulteis, and Paramedic Rich Allen. EMS student, Robert Van Riper. From the Marysdale Fire Department, Tim Miller. Shannon Smith. Orlando Cano, Noah Jones, and Caleb Smith. From the Magnolia Fire Company, Mike Moriarty and Ryan Contino. From the Cheswold Fire Company, Damiana Torres and Jake Fisher. From St. Francis EMS, Marcus Glandon, Sergeant Michelle Yoakum, Lieutenant Ben Verna, Garrett Warner, Ben Bishop, and Captain Mike O'Connor. And also Chief Scott Bundick. I could forget you. For DSP, TFC, Michelle Keene. Dover PD, Patrolman Jake Shepard, and Patrolman Chase Strickland, and Sergeant Jeffrey Gott. And from Date Agent Farley. What? Couldn't hear you.
If you guys down there can come this way so we could do one big group picture, that would be great. And then we'll move on.
Good. I would like to invite survivor Jesse Yoder to join us up front. So on the July 4th holiday, EMS was dispatched to Hartley for a cardiac arrest. Jesse Yoder recently had an AICD implanted. It was reported that he was having issues with the device and was unable to see his doctor due to the holiday. Jesse Yoder suffered an unusually long syncopal episode. BLS arrived and confirmed that Jesse Yoder had gone into cardiac arrest. After an estimated 17 minutes of resuscitation, Jesse Yoder gained return of spontaneous circulation. After spending only 7 days in the hospital and having an AICD device evaluated, Jesse Yoder was discharged and is here with us tonight. Your first responders were from Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 2, Jeff Alton. The BLS crew was Edward Robinson and Brooke Pace. Paramedics were Paramedic Lisa Schlock and Paramedic Cody Alton. Fire department was Jim Porter, Amy Rasmussen, Luke Smith, James Reed, Dylan Miller, Kyle Verdon, and from Delaware State Police, Trooper Madison Price from Troop 3.
Is Mr. Robert Jackson present with us this evening?
I would like to invite Survival Robert Gentile to join us up front. So on September 8th, EMS crews responded and found Robert Gentile seated outside complaining of just not feeling well. EMS found Robert to be in a lethal rhythm and then lost consciousness. He was determined to be in cardiac arrest and CPR was initiated, with pulses returning shortly after resuscitative efforts were performed. He was transported to the hospital where Robert had a stent placed and was discharged 1 day later. Robert is here with us tonight. Your first responders were from the Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 2, Annette Whitby. BLS crew was Lieutenant Sean Martin and EMT Kelsey Zolnak. Paramedics were Lisa Schlock and Nicole Skosik.
I would like to invite survivor Mark Lewis to join us up front. On November 1st, EMS was dispatched to the residence of Mark Lewis after his wife found him unresponsive and gasping for air. Shortly after dispatch, our 911 center recognized when talking to his wife that Mark was in cardiac arrest and notified the responding units. Mark received resuscitation by the crews on scene, and return of spontaneous circulation was achieved just 13 minutes after the time of dispatch. Mark spent 6 days in the hospital and had an AICD implanted, and here he is with us tonight. To recognize the responders, Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 2, Scott Thorne. BLS crew, Robbie Brode and Elizabeth Hayes. The paramedics, Paramedic Cody Outen and Paramedic Jeremy Polish. For the fire department, Rob Wyatt, Harold Brode, Kenny Brode, Rich Walton, Aguido Garcia. And from Harrington PD, William Thomas.
I would like to invite survivor John Francis to join us up front. On November 11th, John Francis was found unresponsive in the Harrington Casino by staff. Staff who were trained in CPR recognized this and were able to apply an AED and initiate CPR. They were able to deliver one shock prior to EMS arrival. The patient was shocked a total of 8 times during his pre-hospital resuscitation. He was transported to Bay Health, where he spent 12 days in the hospital and was discharged with an AICD, and is here tonight with us. Your first responders were from the Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 1, Heather Brown. From the public, Russell McGraw. BLS crew was Courtney Mache and Dale Dean. Paramedics were FTO Matt Donnelly and paramedic Jeremy Polish. From the fire department, Nick Williams. Dana Burton, Cody Alton, Reed Wilson, Nick Malika, Jaden Reynolds, and Rich Walton. And then from Harrington Police Department was Past Chief Kenny Brode.
On December 17th, Robert Crow had not been feeling well for a few days, and he was found unresponsive by his wife, who had then activated 911. While on the phone with 911, the dispatcher was quickly able to determine that Robert was in cardiac arrest and provided her with instructions on how to perform CPR. She performed CPR until the first responders had arrived. Responding units arrived and confirmed cardiac arrest. Resuscitative efforts were continued, and after approximately 15 minutes, it was noted that Robert had a pulse. He was transported to Bay Health, where he was released 6 days later with a stent placement. Unfortunately, Robert was supposed to be here tonight, and he is unable to due to another cardiac event that had occurred. He is currently in the ER, but we are told that he is doing well. So we would still like to recognize him and his responders. For the Kent Center 911 dispatchers, Dispatcher 2, Delbert Ross. For the BLS crew, Dennis Leisure and Jason Roswell. For the paramedics, Paramedic Cody Outen, Paramedic Joe Gallagher, FTO Andy Lauritsen, and Lieutenant Scott McMillan. From the fire department, Brian Truitt, Jim Noble, Colby Buchart, Ernie Dorier, Nate Evans, Richard Thomas, Evan Painter, Eric LaFontaine, and Trustin Davis.
I would like to invite survivor Jimmy Hodges to join us up front. Early Christmas morning, paramedic Sweetman was woken up by her neighbor, Carol Hodges, around 4 a.m. Carol was concerned for her husband and New Gen's role in the community. Paramedic Sweetman ran across the street to find that neighbor, Jimmy Hodges, was in cardiac arrest. Bystander CPR was quickly started and continued for approximately 8 minutes until further assistance arrived. Clayton PD arrived shortly after and was able to provide an AED for use. EMS crews then arrived to continue the resuscitative efforts until the patient regained pulses 8 or 9 minutes later. The patient was stabilized and transported to Bay Health Kent, where he was later discharged in January. This is an excellent example of how effective bystander CPR and early defibrillation can save a life. Because of these efforts, he is here with us tonight. Your first responders from the Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 2, Pamela Dayton. From the public, off-duty paramedic Jennifer Sweetman. Clayton PD was Sergeant Robert Bishop. BLS crew was Samantha Henry and Christina Ramirez. Paramedics were TJ Polakowski and Nicole Skosix. Fire department, Kevin Crew Sr. Jeff Lightcap. Austin Moorhead. Allison Pedigo. Gilbert McClennett. And Michael Wine.
I would like to invite up survivor Susan Capel. On December 29th, EMS units were dispatched to heart problems. While en route, the call was upgraded to a CPR. Responding BLS units arrived and found Susan Capel in cardiac arrest. They initiated CPR, applied the AED, and delivered one shock. Once ALS arrived, their assessment found the patient to have gained spontaneous circulation. The patient was continuously cared for during her short transport to Bay Health Kent, where she was admitted and spent 8 days in the hospital with a prior ICD placement that was assessed, and she is now here with us tonight. And for your first responders, from the Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 2, Scott Thorne. BLS crew, Mike Kempista. Ashley Venny. Brittany Moriarty. Ross Sheridan. And Amanda Carey. For the paramedics, FTO Melanie Marinucci and paramedic Derek Thomas, who can't be with us tonight. And from DSP, Trooper Joseph Shanahan. Right. And lastly, we would like to recognize Mr. Robert Jackson, who is unfortunately not with us this evening as well for unknown circumstances. On August 31st, Robert Jackson's family contacted 911 because her husband was not feeling well. EMS responded and found Robert Jackson to be significantly ill. He was loaded for transport, and while en route, Robert went into cardiac arrest. EMS was then able to revive Robert Jackson after a short period of resuscitative efforts. While he was admitted to the hospital for almost a month and then had an AICD implanted, he was discharged, and he should be here with us tonight, and we are still going to recognize him as well as his responders. From the Kent 911 Center, Dispatcher 1, Chris Whitby. The BLS crew, Nick Williams, Jason Karras, and from the paramedics, paramedic Darren Jones and paramedic Kelly Brothers.
So before I conclude the ceremony, I did neglect in my opening remarks to mention 3 individuals that made this night possible. They have put a lot of work, effort into this, and I think they need a little recognition. FTO Jennifer Sweetman, Sergeant Laura Doyle, and Sergeant Jessica Poe have put countless hours in to make sure that this is the success that it was, and I want to thank those ladies for all the work that you've done. Under an hour, that's good. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the first annual Survivors Reunion. We will be doing this every year coming forward. One of the thoughts were to keep it during the EMS week, and I think it's really a good correlation between the two. So look forward for this next May in 2025. Please join us if you come down the hallway to room 220. We do have refreshments. So let's socialize a little bit, and thank you so much for coming. Be safe.